We used to laugh while other people used to be pregnant. He was once loved by millions of people, but now no one hears his voice anymore. Barry Gibb, the last living member of the Bee Gees, is slowly going quiet in a scary way. What happened to the man who made the whole world dance to his music? What you are about to hear isn't just a music story. Barry Gibb now lives quietly in a big house by the beach in Miami, Florida, where reporters can't reach him and strangers can't get past the security gates. At almost 80 years old, he isn't really sick, and he doesn't live in a nursing home. But he has something worse than being sick. He's pulling away from everyone. He stays away from crowds, doesn't like to go out, and has barely shown up in public since the Kennedy Center honors in 2023, even though he lives near his kids and grandkids, who he once called the last light in a dark room. Barry keeps his distance. It's not because he doesn't love them, but because he's scared of getting too emotional. In an interview with the Guardian newspaper, he said, "Family is all I have left, but I can't show it like normal people do." Barry stays away from anything he thinks might be dangerous. Even small things like boiling water, driving at night, riding roller coasters, or even going into a kitchen with a gas stove are all things he won't do. This is partly because of an accident when he was little, but also because he's afraid of things that might happen without warning. He told Rolling Stone magazine, "I've seen too many things disappear without any warning. Since then, I don't believe anything is really safe." The big house where Barry lives is built like a castle to protect him. Everything from his past is carefully kept in a private room that only Linda, his wife, can go into. She is also the only person who can still reach the human part of Barry that's left. But even Linda says he doesn't want to talk much anymore. This sounds simple, but for someone like Barry who used to express himself through music, it's a clear sign that he's giving up. For more than 50 years, he sang about love, pain, and wanting to live. But at 78, he only whispers those things in quick moments with his grandchildren. "I'm living childhood again through Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck cartoons. They make me laugh like the days before I knew what the Bee Gees were. I can see me in your eyes no longer finding happiness on stage." Barry looks for the last bits of joy in simple moments watching cartoons, planting trees, walking in his yard when the sun goes down and no one can see him. He doesn't talk about the future. When people ask about his plans for next year, Barry only says, "I don't make plans for far away. I just hope I wake up tomorrow." That answer from a man who once was #1 on every music chart shows someone who has lost all hope. With no one left to wait for, and no stage to perform on, Barry now counts his days by each morning when he opens his eyes. Some reporters have called Barry a living legend. "You got to be mine. We take it away." But if that's true, he's living like a shadow of himself, not wanting to speak, not caring if people talk about him, and not worried about whether the world remembers him or forgets him. In a CBS News interview, he once said something chilling, "I don't feel anything about whether people remember me or not, and I think that's okay." But is it really okay? He's not having a funeral for himself, but Barry has lived like he's saying goodbye to everything: his voice, his love, his memories, and finally, his belief that music could save a life. He saved millions of people with his songs. World music, but like he once said, "I wrote so many love songs, but none of them helped me get through their deaths." Barry's quietness didn't start when he got old. It started much earlier at a time no one expected. Scars that never heal. In 1948, in a small apartment on the Isle of Man, Barry Gibb, who was only 2 years old, accidentally spilled a pot of boiling water on himself. His soft skin got badly burned, and the skin started to die. The dead skin began to spread. Doctors told his parents the boy has less than half an hour to live. But amazingly, he lived life. After the accident became a long series of quiet days, Barry spent 2 years in the hospital, wrapped up in bandages like a mummy, completely cut off from the outside world. And after he got out of the hospital, he didn't say a single word for the next 2 years. He was just a little boy staring into space like the world had disappeared. Many years later, Barry remembered that time in a radio interview. "I couldn't speak anymore, not because something was wrong with my body, but because of my mind. I stopped believing anyone was listening to me." That memory, which seemed to fade with time, was the foundation of everything he felt inside. When his family moved to Manchester in 1955, Barry thought he could finally start over. But once again, he was separated from his family. His father took Barry to live somewhere else, while his mother stayed with his brothers Robin, Morris, and Leslie at their aunt's house. For a child who had already been alone in a hospital, being split up from his mother and brothers was like another stab into a wound that never healed. He once said bitterly, "I never understood why I was kept away like that. People said it was something that had to happen, but to me it felt like being abandoned." Those early years didn't just leave scars on his skin, but carved a deep fear of getting close to people into Barry's mind. He always wondered, does love last? Will every relationship eventually break? That question followed Barry for his whole life. In his music, especially the early 70s love songs like "Run to Me" or "I Started a Joke," there's always something painful, but not broken. It's not the pain of a broken heart or being betrayed, but the feeling of being left outside of life, even while you're still living in it. It's a feeling only children who were rejected deep down can understand. From those experiences, Barry learned to control everything around him. As a young man, he was the one who planned every detail for the Bee Gees, from the music arrangements, to the order of songs on albums, to where they stood on stage. He didn't do this because he wanted power, but because he was scared if he didn't hold on to everything, he'd lose it all. Just like what happened when he was little. No warning, no protection. He lived so carefully it became an obsession. He always carried hand sanitizer in his pocket, checked the gas stove before bed, and refused to do activities where he couldn't control what would happen. Notably, no one knew these things when the Bee Gees were at their most famous, but looking back, it's clear Barry never fully believed he deserved to be successful. And so when the world honors him at almost 80, the only thing he does is stay quiet. Not because he's arrogant, but because deep inside he's still that 2-year-old boy staring into space, wondering, where do I fit in all this? But strangely, that boy who didn't dare believe he had a place in the world became the center of a worldwide music phenomenon. Bright light. When Barry Gibb got into his 20s, along with Robin and Morris, he started the Bee Gees, making songs full of emotion and questions about love, loneliness, and wanting to be accepted. In the mid-70s, the Bee Gees didn't just succeed, they took over everything with the Saturday Night Fever album. The group not only made the best-selling movie soundtrack in history, but they changed a whole time period. Stayin Alive, Night Fever, How Deep Is Your Love? Those hit songs didn't just play on the radio, they became the voice of everyone their age. Barry, with his high singing voice, suddenly became famous all over the world. He once said in an interview, "We weren't normal people anymore. We were swept up in a tornado we created ourselves. But then that tornado destroyed itself." In 1979, the Disco Sucks movement started in the US. People began to hate disco music, but behind it were fights about race, gender, and pop culture. The Bee Gees, as the biggest face of disco, instantly became targets. Radio stations stopped playing their music. Newspapers made fun of them. A Chicago DJ even organized a disco demolition night with thousands of people coming to burn Bee Gees albums, along with others. For Barry, it was a cultural shock. From the top, he was thrown into a pit with no time to react. He said in a Star Tribune interview, "You get beaten up, then one day people love you again, then beat you up again. That's the cycle of my life." That embarrassment made Barry hide away. He no longer appeared a lot on TV and stopped releasing new Bee Gees songs. The group switched to writing songs for other people. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Barbra Streisand, as a way to make music without facing the shame behind the scenes. Barry began tightly controlling every part of his personal life. The man who once wrote every word and every drum beat now had to carefully plan even the steps he took when leaving the house. The cost of being famous, as he said, wasn't just having no privacy, but the feeling of being loved wrongly by the world and hated at the right moment. One of the few things keeping him stable then was his wife, Linda Gray. In an entertainment world where temptation and betrayal happen all the time, Linda was different. She once said no to a dinner invitation from Steve McQueen just to keep Barry from getting jealous. She also firmly said no to advertising deals and reality show contracts when Barry, growing tired, still wanted to make everyone happy. He said, "My brothers fought with demons in their heads, but I was luckier. I had my wife as a shield." But that shield couldn't stop the cracks inside Barry. Even though he was living in glory, he still doubted everything. On one hand, he knew he was the Bee Gees' cornerstone, the melody maker. On the other hand, he felt useless. "I never liked interviews. I don't know what to say. I'm not good at answering questions about myself." That statement at the height of his career sounded humble, but in the post-70s context, it felt like he was starting to deny himself. Barry Gibb, the man who made the world listen, began to stop wanting to speak. And when he stopped speaking, other things started to fall apart. In the years that followed, the Bee Gees kept going, but they weren't the same. New songs weren't loved like before. Awards became fewer. The public turned to new trends. And Barry, instead of getting angry, just became quiet. And when the stage lights went out, the only thing left was loss. 3 funerals, 1 survivor. On March 10, 1988, the phone rang in Barry Gibb's home. On the other end was a message he'd never forget. Andy Gibb, the youngest brother, had just died. Andy died at 30 officially from heart disease. But everyone knew his heart had been destroyed long before by drugs, alcohol, and being abandoned by the music industry that once celebrated him. For Barry, Andy's death wasn't just losing someone, it was guilt. Andy wasn't an official Bee Gees member, but Barry always saw him as a spiritual twin. "We were alike in everything from looks to thoughts. I thought I could save him, and I was wrong," Barry shared with the Irish Times newspaper. Barry had tried to help Andy quit drugs with tough love, saying harsh words to wake him up. But that tough love meant to save someone he loved became their last conversation. Days after a cold phone call, Andy died. Barry carried that pain for the rest of his life. The hurt hadn't healed when another tragedy hit. On January 12, 2003, Morris Gibb, Robin's twin, and the quiet musical soul of the Bee Gees, suddenly died in the hospital from a twisted intestine. He was rushed into emergency surgery, but his heart stopped during the operation. Barry, hours away by airplane, didn't make it to say goodbye. Unlike Andy, Morris was the one Barry thought would stay until the end. They shared a sense of humor, calmness, and the ability to handle chaos with a gentle word. Maurice kept Barry from giving up hope during crisis, but now he was gone. In a rare interview afterward, Barry bitterly said, "We couldn't keep calling ourselves the Bee Gees without Mo. It's like calling a body human after losing its heart." After Maurice's death, Barry and Robin announced they would stop using the Bee Gees' name as a way to honor him. But deep inside, it was a silent collapse. Barry began hiding away. Music, once his salvation, now became proof of a dead time. He refused to sing songs Maurice had played on. He sat alone in the studio for hours, unable to write. And then, like a curse aimed only at him, his last brother, Barry Gibb, passed away in 2012 after fighting colon cancer and kidney failure. Most importantly, Robin had the most complicated relationship with Barry. In his final 5 years, they barely spoke. Disagreements over musical direction, group management, and unresolved past problems drove them apart. Barry told Daily Mail, "I lost 3 brothers without being their friend. With Robin, in those last 5 years, we couldn't connect anymore." This was no longer just loss. It was complete destruction. Barry didn't just grieve for family, but for the chance to fix things. 3 funerals, and not one where he could forgive or be forgiven. After Robin's death, Barry fell into terrible depression. He said no to performance offers, stopped writing music, ignored phone calls, even family dinners. For days, he sat in darkness. And if not for Linda, his wife of over 50 years, Barry might not have gotten up. In a rare media share about that time, Linda remembered, he cried enough. "I said, get up, make music again. I won't let you live like this." Those words, seemingly a normal thing a spouse would say, became Barry's final lifeline. He returned to the studio, releasing the album In the Now, after almost a decade of silence. But it wasn't a bright comeback. It was a musical funeral. Each song was a goodbye to his brothers. "I'm the last survivor, but no one told me how to live as the last one," he told CBS News. And truly, who can teach you to keep living after 3 parts of your flesh and blood are gone? Barry quietly put photos into drawers, deleted songs from playlists, and every night before bed, he still played an old recording, the sound of Robin's laugh, Morris's harmony, and an unfinished demo by Andy. Then he closed his eyes, and if tomorrow didn't come, he'd have heard the things he loved most one last time. Then when Barry thought there was nothing left to keep going for, things he never dared hope for began to appear. A late legacy. He was knighted in 2018, becoming Sir Barry Gibb for his huge contributions to music and charity. He was also honored at the Kennedy Center Honors in 2023, standing among stars like Dolly Parton, Lionel Richie, and Michael Bublé. Younger artists lined up to thank Barry for songs that changed their lives. And at the most shining moment of the ceremony, Barry said, "Only one thing, without my brothers, I wouldn't be standing here. No tears, no big smile, no one to hug." He stood alone. Many people thought Barry should be proud, but he said the opposite. In a CBS News interview, he said, "I'm not sure what I feel anymore. Everything came too late. When you lose the 3 people you loved most, no award truly makes you completely happy." In 2021, Barry released Greenfield's The Gibb Brothers Songbook, Volume 1, a new version of the Bee Gees' most famous songs, this time in a country style, performed with artists like Dolly Parton, Keith Urban, and Miranda Lambert. The album was an instant hit with critics and fans alike. Though successful, Barry refused to watch the documentary, The Bee Gees, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? He said, "I hear people love that film, but I can't watch it. I don't want to see my brothers on screen looking alive, but no longer here." That's Barry's deepest tragedy. He can't be friends with his memories. He doesn't talk much about legacy, but others speak for him. Dolly Parton called Barry the heart of a generation. Michael Bublé said the song, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? Launched his career. Paul Gambaccini, a well-known music critic, said, "The Bee Gees are second only to Lennon and McCartney in their impact on British music," but all those praises Barry receives with a faint smile. Not because he doesn't value them, but because he knows the true worth of music lies not in medals, but in the people you can share those moments with, and he has no one left. The only thing remaining is the echo of old songs in cars, cafes, films, YouTube covers. Too many that might seem like a beautiful ending. A legend who lived long, was recognized with family and fame. But for Barry, it's just an empty shell. In his most recent rare share, he ended the interview with one line, "I don't know if people will still remember me, and if they don't, that's okay." If this story touched you, please hit like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel to not miss other emotional journeys. Every view, every comment from you is a tribute to legends slowly being forgotten.